grave, Jacob set up a pillar. It is a pillar at Rachel's grave to this day. So that place of death becomes hugely significant, right? And it's understood to be a place when exiles are leaving Israel, like it's sort of like the last place to say goodbye to their land, and a place from which, Rachel kind of prays on behalf of her children. So let's skip the next text and look at Jeremiah 31. And Jeremiah was a prophet. He lived from 650, I think, to 580. So now I'm in source 3. And he was a prophet who both predicted and lived through the destruction of the first temple. So he says, "Thus said God, a cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Ko amar Adonai, kol beramah nishma, nehi bechi tamurim, Rachel mivaka al baneha, ma'ana lihinachem al baneha, ki einenu." So here, we can think about Rachel as the one who had interrupted motherhood, a kind of motherhood that was stolen from her. And she refuses to be comforted for her children, right? Perhaps because of her past, and perhaps because she's witnessing her children suffer at a different moment in time, right? At a moment during the near destruction or the destruction of the first temple. And then God says something really interesting. Ko amar Adonai, min'i kolech mi bechi ve'einayach mi dim'ah, ki yesh sachar lepulatech, ne'um Adonai v'shavu me'eretz oyev. Thus said God, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears, for there is a reward for your labor, declares God. They shall return from the enemy's land. So what's this labor? What's this pu'ulah? What's her work here? What work did she do? Any thoughts? Like there's a reward for her labor, and all she did, as far as we can see in this text, is cry for her children. So what do you think she's getting a reward for? Emotional labor of caring for her children, right? So here she becomes a kind of, not only a mother of her own children, which she was in the past, but a mother of Israel, right? She rises to the level, as Abraham Isaac Cook says, right? One who cries or sings the song of their people. She sings the cry of her people, right? And that's Tisha B'Av, right? We're supposed to feel not only our grief, but collective grief. And I wonder often in this atomized society, how do we feel the grief beyond the individual, beyond our family? How do we actually feel the grief of the collective, of our people, of our history? So thousands of people marched from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem because they cared about their people, about their country, right? So they had their own personal stake, but they also cared about the whole. Beyond. You weren't there, were you? You were there in person just now. Amazing. Any other thoughts about Rachel's pe'ulah, Rachel's work, Rachel's activity, Rachel's labor? Yeah. She's going to do everything to.
Oh, hello. I should use my teacher's voice, right? So, so in being present with the people, in being present with every individual, by sharing her thoughts, her wisdom. She was a very wise woman. besides caring for her children. She literally knew what to do and to take actions.
Beautiful. Anyone else? Yeah, Neely.
I'm just going to take it one step underneath that.
Yeah.
The labor of grieving, of really allowing her heart to break open, allows for the wells of redemption to emerge. So to go that deep, that we break open, allows for transformation.
Yeah.
I just wanted to echo what you just said, because being aware of pain and grief is a type of spiritual work, just as being conscious or with joy. And there's often the sort of mitzvah of being joyful in Judaism and different religions, different spiritualities. But I don't often hear this mitzvah of weeping and of pain and of suffering, of being aware in the moment by intention of all the tears that have been shed and all the pain that, of whether it be of the Jewish people or just the world in general.
So it might not be a specific mitzvah, but there's certainly a day and a period of time in which to do that. For collective calamity, and also, of course, for personal grieving as well. There are times for that. So our tradition makes a lot of room for grief.
Okay, yeah, good point.
Yeah. Can you pass that? Yeah.
Oh, just in the part that we skipped, there's like a hint of something a little bit different, which says, okay, so Rachel's buried on the path.
Yes.
And exiles are passing by.
So Anya's looking at
Yeah.
source 2.
Hi.
Hi, Anya.
So yeah, in the Bereshit Rabbah, so it says the exiles are going to pass by, and she's going to plead for mercy. So she's weeping for a reason, which is that people are going to hear, and they're going to change something. They're going to give them mercy, and they're going to be able to come home because of that weeping. So sometimes we raise our voices, and we're invoking this emotion, and we're trying to get a change.
Beautiful. So we're going to get, that actually takes us to the next text. But let's finish this one, and then we'll go there. Thank you, Anya. So it says here in the last verse in source 3, V'yesh tikva v'acharitech v'ne'um Adonai v'shavu banim l'gvulam. And there is hope for your future, declares God. Your children shall return to their country. So there's something in her weeping, in her raising up her voice, that's actually effective, right? God approves. So God approves one more time in this extraordinary midrash in Lamentations Rabbah. So this is the, let's see, source 4. And it's an extraordinary, it's a very long midrash where all the forefathers and Moses are confronting God about God's punishment of Israel, right? And God doesn't listen to any of them. And then Rachel raises a certain argument, and I look at her argument and ask, what's effective here? And is there anything we can learn from this? God hears her argument and responds to her cry. Anya, do you feel like reading the English?
Sure. Starting with Lord of the Universe, or
At that
farther
point,
down?
Rachel, our mother, jumped.
Yes, okay, sure. So at that point, Rachel, our mother, jumped in front of the one, blessed be he, saying, Lord of the universe, it is known to you that Jacob, your servant, loved me very much and toiled for me for 7 years in my father's house. And that when these 7 years were complete, my father planned to substitute my sister, Leah, for me as a wife. I knew his plan and therefore was cast into a dilemma. I informed my husband of my father's plot and gave him a sign to distinguish between me and my sister. But later I had a change of heart. I suppressed my desire for Jacob and conceived pity for my sister's shame. In the evening, when my sister was substituted for myself, I disclosed to my sister the signs I had given to my husband so that he would believe her to be me. I even crawled under their bed. When he talked to her, she maintained her silence while I answered him, lest he recognize her voice. I did her a kindness, nor was I envious of her, nor did I expose her to shame.
Okay, so let's stop here for a moment. So this is an absolutely outrageous midrash. It in no way, right, relates to the text of the Torah, which says that they hated each other. Rachel and Leah were jealous of each other, right? But here, Rachel is really caring for her sister. She does this amazing thing, this crazy thing. She hides under her bed and she projects her voice so that Jacob thinks that Leah is Rachel and Leah won't be embarrassed. That is amazing, especially if Rachel wanted Jacob as her husband, although we're not sure about that. The emet, the truth. No, it was a deception. It was a duplicity, but a generous one. You're not sure how it sits with you. Okay, other people. What do you think, Shira?
I mean, what strikes me is that she relinquishes her ego and sees the unfolding of history, and that she's enabling something that is inevitable or foretold. And she does tzimtzum with her heart to allow this thing to happen. And the other thing that occurred to me
But
just—
where do you see her, like, where do you see her see the unfolding of history?
Well, I'm reading that into her actions.
Aha.
I'm doing
So you think
midrash.
she had a broader view.
I think
It's
that—
not just about protecting her
think
sister.
that- yeah, this is such a— I mean, generous is not even the word, you know, it's unthinkable. I mean, this is really amazingly cinematic and visual.
Yeah.
You could see this thing happening and her under the bed. And I mean, here's the man who she desires, and she is somehow, maybe she's able to withstand this and endure it by depersonalizing what's happening and saying something is happening here that's larger than me.
Okay, great. Yeah. Karine. Great, Shira. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I don't see any of that. I just see deception. Like, has
You just see
anyone,
deception.
yeah, has anyone given
So you're
thought to
with this
poor
side of the
Jacob?
room.
Has anyone given thought to poor Jacob that he thinks he's marrying the love of his life, and on his wedding night instead, she's furthering the deception while I don't see anything good about that.
So he's duped and humiliated, even though her sister isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a kindness to her sister and a cruelty to Jacob.
Yeah, I think if the gender were reversed, we wouldn't be quite so generous about what Rachel is
I
doing.
think you're absolutely right. I think we're
Yeah.
reading through a gender lens, and when I do that, I love what Rachel did.
But it's also so Jerry Springer, and it's like, it's such a repeat of the Jacob Esau scene too.
Wait, say it again.
It's such a repeat of the Jacob and Esau scene, which is also a bedside deception. Like, what's up with this family?
What's up with this family? And at least in this midrash, Rachel is sort of interrupting the competition between siblings, right? She's interrupting the pattern. Okay, wait. People have their hand up. Jessica has her hand up.
Okay, so I've made a puppet show about this scene, and I've spent a lot of time with it, and I feel like there's so few places that we get to see women together and women doing something for each other. And there's this thing I found in the Talmud that says if there are two women sitting across from each other at a crossroads and one is looking at the other, they are most certainly engaged in witchcraft. And I think very often we don't underline and champion that generosity between women, and what Shira said is truly my belief, and that should be enough for us. Yes, it's deception, but the genders are not reversed, and they are reversed throughout the Torah most of the time. We don't get this story very often, and I think we need to put a spotlight on it.
Oh, thank you. I love the readings coming up in the room, right? They're complicated and competing, but we're going to go on and get to, I think, take it to a new level, a different point. So go on, Anya, please. And if
And if I, a mere mortal, dust and ashes, overcame my envy and did not shame my sister, why should you, the merciful king, be jealous of idolatry that has no substance and exile my children to be put to death by the sword and to become a prey to their enemies? And immediately the mercy of the Lord was stirred, and God said, "For you, Rachel, I will restore Israel to her place." For it was said, "A voice is heard in Ramah."
which brings us back to Jeremiah 31. So Abraham confronts God, Isaac confronts God, Jacob confronts God, Moses confronts God. They each kind of, there's like a critique about God's cruelty in each thing. And at least in this midrash, God doesn't listen, but God listens to Rachel. Why do you think in this midrash, what about what Rachel does would lead God to listen? What do you think? What is it?
Yeah, I'm loving this. I hadn't read the whole story. Um, she has proven that she's not going to be petty about her own needs. She has proven that she will not be petty about her own needs. So she has attained a standard of purity. She has the right to call out God.
So she uses her own sort of wrestling with herself and her conquering of her own passions, and she lays that. What about like where? Yeah, sure. See if you can use the microphone. So people in the studio.
Hello? Can you hear me? Ahora sí. עכשיו, כן? תודה. So, what I see, what I'm reading is, this is at a formative phase in our history as a people, and the nation is yet to be formed, but it's forming. And Rachel, she puts family first. She puts the lineage first. The husband, Jacob, he's marrying in, but she puts her sister and her father's perhaps will over him. So perhaps that's what God is recognizing. Hashem is recognizing that. Correct. In order to and bringing them back from exile is, it's right? It's a return.
There's going to be Torah on the birth of Benjamin. I have to participate. Benoni that I am. There's just an amazing conversation happening here, I feel, between, and I'm not sure it's in the text, but I want to answer your question, Rabbi Diane, by saying that God is responding actually to Rachel's praying not for her children, but for Leah's children. So the temple is in the area that's for the tribe of Benjamin, which is Rachel's descendant, which is inside of the land of Judah. And I immediately was thinking about this Torah from Rabbi Shai Held, who I learned from basically telling the story of actually after this whole episode where Rachel does this amazing thing or amazing deception, and Jacob actually, in fact, doesn't love Leah, that she gives birth to one son and two sons and three sons, and each son actually, Reuven and Shimon and Levi, are all named after prayers that maybe my husband will finally see me or hear my voice or accompany me. And finally, Judah comes, and there's suddenly some room for gratitude that pops through the grief. Like, well, whatever my husband does, wow, I got a son. And I guess, I don't know, I'm just really sort of, there's just this kind of shocking piece here about Rachel praying actually for all these other tribes. Like, yes, Benjamin gets the temple, but Joseph doesn't even, it's, you know, his children, etc., who have land and who have, yeah. Yeah, she's really, she's stepping up as a matriarch in a way that she doesn't have to.
I think one of the things that is most tragic about this whole Rachel episode is that Rachel essentially dies, and her 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 grave is a place where we're not grieving for Rachel, but we're watching Rachel grieve for others in her grave. It's quite a moment when a matzeva is put up, and instead of it becoming a place where we come to think about Rachel, Rachel is cast as someone who's constantly thinking about her children. And it's true that in Rachel's life, she essentially, without knowing it, she did lose both of her children. And the same words are used with Jacob and his grief, that Jacob refused to be comforted by everyone. And so both Jacob and Rachel are bereft in the Torah. The second thing I wanted to say is that it's hard to read midrash in this way without thinking that the rabbis are engaging in one of the most radical forms of theological revisionism and irreverence. The rabbis here are doing a reversal on what the traditional rabbinic structure of ethics was, which is just as God is compassionate and loving, so should we be compassionate and loving. And in this case, the midrash reads God back from Rachel and Rachel says, really? Really, like, I can overcome jealousy, and it's a real thing because I really had something to lose. Exactly. Right. Instead of imitatio Dei, imitatio human. We should imitate humans. And this is a remarkable moment of moral and ethical progress, because God is essentially, in the minds of the theologians, is now being called to task. And in framing it this way, God is modeling what it is to grow up. Like, in this way, God is being called to task for acting like a child. And they're casting these tragedies of human history, of Jewish history, as moments of injustice in some sense. Like, Rachel could handle her jealousy, and you couldn't handle your jealousy. And it's quite heretical in a beautiful way.
Another narrative with wide and great. So, okay, so my part
I was just going to lift up what Rabbi David said. Rabbi Ethan Tucker has this basic frame for looking at midrash, and the crazier the midrash is, the better it works, which basically starts off by saying there's often a lacon in the text. There's something going on in the text that doesn't quite fit. You pointed out part one, which is they're jealous. It's a horrible relationship going on. Part two is God listens to Rachel. She's the quintessential. And so the midrash comes to us in the craziest way possible, exactly what Rabbi David has said, is that there's another lesson here to make this work, because otherwise it doesn't work at all. And that model of a problem with the text, an agenda of the rabbis to teach morality and openness in a new way, gives room for the most wild midrashim to come to life as a way to help us bridge that gap. Right.
refuse to give up. And so we're gonna hit the ground. If you feel comfortable sitting on the ground, we'd love to have you here. If you get dense here, we're gonna pick up our shoes and we're gonna bring the house lights down and we'll begin this day of grief and of lament. I just want to say one thing. Another thing is that it's interesting that we do this in the dark. Because so much of Krishna is about light, it's action. The Talmud teaches us that when we find a letter in the Hebrew alphabet appearing for the first time, it will give us an insight into the nature of that letter. And the ninth day of Av, those who know the Hebrew alphabet, the letter that is corresponding to the number 9 is the ninth letter, the text. And the first time that it appears is in the Quran, where it says, and God saw and the light was good. And the irony of the Orti told, it was good told the first time the letter is appeared. And then we're told that that light only lasted for 36 hours, and then it was hidden away. One of the legends in it, hidden away. Where was the light hidden to the right? The word Eicha has the numerical value of 36. Aleph, 1, Yud, 10, 36. And we have a tradition that the hidden light that's in the book of Eicha is the hidden light. This in the beginning of creation, hidden in all of these dark places. This is where it starts with trap and fear and pain and needing to be right. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. I have that feeling. I know that feeling today. I had many of those feelings today. And I'm sure tomorrow too. One of the most remarkable things about our tradition is that it imagines that the second temple's destruction, when the second temple was destroyed, the rabbis say it was destroyed because of something called Sinat Sinai, faith of hatred. It's a remarkable thing because the Beit HaMikdash in our tradition it didn't have to do with ethics and morality. It was all religion. It was all vertical. The sacred center of our tradition, the place where God and humans meet, was essentially destroyed not because of the relationship between God and humans, but between humans and humans. Like an amazing thing. Anyway, Eicha. 35 in your midrash. Eicha yashva adam ha'ir v'chi'an ha'isam ki'alanan navasi sarasi gamelilon ha'isam Bafo Tikelai, Vediyata Alethaya, Ella Menachem Yolvareha, Kolveeha Ba'agdiva, Ayula Le'ozi, Galata Yuda Me'oni Me'oravoda, Yash Lavagogi, לא מצא מנוח, ורצי פיגוע בין המצרים, דרכי ציון נברו, נגלי באי מואי, כל שעריה שומרים, כהניה ננחים, וסביותר ניגות כהימלאי, היו צריה לראש אויבי השלום, Yadunai hoga alok sheha olalea halefu shiri bifnei hayotzei mibatzion kol hadara hayu tareha ka'ayalim lo matzu mireh vayalchu v'lo koach bifnei yodei v'mitnafetei shiri זכרה ירושלים, ימי עוניהו ומרודיה, כל מחמודיה אשר היו מנקדם, בנפול עולמה יצא, ואין עוד לה, ראו הצהרים, צחקו על משפטיה. Jerusalem has greatly sinned, therefore she has become a mockery. All who admire her despise her, for they have seen her disgrace, and she can only sigh and shrink down. Tumatsa vishileha, lo tacha harisa, bateider kiloim einina chayla. Ra'e Adonai et ahani, higi lo yeh. Yado Baraksa Al Kol Mahamadha Vidata Gogim Ba'u Miglasha Asher Tivita Lo Yavo V'Tallah Kol Aman Nafim Mivakshim Lechem Nafnu Mahamadhem V'Ochel Lashiv Nafesh Ve'Adonai Ve'Havita V'Yiti Ve'Lela Lo Aleichem Kol Avdei Godes Havitu Uru Yesh Macho V'Kima'achovi Asher Olavi Asher Hoga Adonai Ve'yom Chayedapo Miladom Shalach Gat Mosai Va'yirdeno Harat Reshet V'Ragla Yeshivan Yachor Netanani Shomema Kol Hayom Davar The yoke of my apprentice is downcast, lashed tight by his hand, imposed upon my neck, it caps my friend. The Lord has delivered me into the hands of those I cannot withstand. Selah, Kol Avirai Adonai B'Keli, Haro Alai, Moed Mishlo B'Choroi, Nasarach Adonai, Yerusalat Yehuda, Al Eideh Ani Yochia, Eini Yordamayim, תרחק ממני, מנחם, משיב נפשי. היו בניי שומעים, בגובה אויב. פרקציון בידך, אם מנחם לך, תירא אדוני יעקב תירא, נגע וישא ירושלים, לנידה ביניהם. צדקו אדוני כתבו מריתי, שמונה חורמי, וראו מחרובי, בסילותי ובחורי הלכו בשבי. קראתי מלהביהם העבירו לי. Top of page 38. כהני וזקני בעיר גבעו, כי ביקשו כלמו, ויושיעו את נפשם. ראה אדוני כי צרי, מאי כמה ברו, נפח ליבי בקרבי, כמרו מהריתי, ופשט יחר בבית המואר. שמעו כי מנחם, מנחם לי, כל אויבי, שמעו רפי ששו, כי אתה עשית, ובית היום קראת, תהיו כמוני. תבוא קראתם לפניך ועולה לנו, אשר עוללת לי על כל קושי, כי רבות ענפותי, ולבי דבר. Eicha Ya'im Yavo Adonai et Batzion Ishlik Mishamayim Yeretz V'zachar Adom Raglaim Yom Ma'aton Ila Adonai Lo Kama Et Kol Neot Yaakov Haras Yebrato Mitzrei Bas Yehuda Higia La'aretz Shilel Mamlacha V'tzarecha In blazing anger he has cut down all the might of Yisrael. He has withdrawn his right hand in the presence of the foe. He has ravaged Jacob like flaming fire, consuming on all sides. Darash kashto yoyeh, nitzav yemino kitzar, vayaharog kol machamadei ayim, oel vasion, shafach esh chamato. Hay Adonai ki oyev vila Yisrael, vila kol am menosea, shichet mitzarav, vayere vivat Yehuda, ta'aniya ve'aniya. Vayachlos yagan tzuko, shiches moado, shikach Adonai v'tzion v'oed v'shabat, vayin'at v'zamapo melech v'tohem, tzanach Adonai mizbecho ni'eh migdasho, yisgir v'yado ye'eh chamot, ar menoseva, chol, nasnu b'beis Adonai ki yom v'oed. חשב אדוני לישקיץ חומס בציון, נקקר לא השיב ידו מבלעה, ויחלחל בחומס יחדיו אומללו. הבאו בארץ שעריה, איבד ושיבה בריתיה, מלכה ושריה בגויים אין תורה, גם נביאיה לא מצאו חזון מאדוני. ישבו לארץ יבנו זקני בת ציון, העלו עפר על ראשם, חגרו צקים, הורידו לארץ ראשן בסולות ירושלים. תלו בדמות עיני חממה ומאי, נשבח לארץ כבדי אשר בת עמי, בעתיד עולל ויונק ברחובות קריה. לאיבותם יאמרו איי דגן ויין, ישעטם כחלל ברחובות עיר, ישתבח נפשם אל חיק אנוסם. מעידך מעד המלך, הרס ירושלים, משווה לך ואנחמך, בסולת ציון, גדול קיים. Shivret, your pain is as great as an ocean who can heal you. Miryadi, Azulach Shavikafer, Velo Gilu Alavonet Yashitite, Vayakazulach Masos, Shavamaduchim. Top of page 41. Top. Top of page 41. Savku alayach kapayim al kol v'darech, sharku v'anu rosham al ba'as Yerushalayim. Hazo Sair, is this the city? Shiru klilas yofi, misos l'chol haaretz. Patzu alayach bihem kol avayich, sharku lecha rushein amru bilanu. Ach ze hayom shekivenu matzinu matzanu inu. Asa Adonai asher zamam, ביצע אמרסו אשר ציווה ממקדם, הרס ולא חמל, וישמח עלייך אויב, חירים קרן צריך. צעק ליבם אל אדוני, חומס בציון, הורידי כנחל דמעה יומם ולילה. אל תתני פוגס לך, אל תדום בעינייך. קומי רוני בלילה לראש אשמורוס, שפכי חמים ליבך, נוכח פני השם, בני אדוני, שאי אלייך כפייך, על נפש עול עלייך, עטופים ברע בראש כל חוצות. ראה אדוני ויביטה, למי עולל תקו, אם תאכלנה נשים מפיר ים, עוללי תפוחים, אם ירק מקדש אדוני, כהן ונביא. שכבו לארץ חוצות, נער וזקן, וסולוסי ובחורי נפלו בחרב. הרגת ביום אפיך, טבחת ולא חמלת, תקרא כי יום מועד מגורי מנורי מסביב, ולא היה ביום אף אדוני פליט בשרין, אשר טיפחתי וריביתי אויבי חילם.
So this past May, or rather ER, how about now? Okay. So this past May, or rather ER, my Zadie, my hero and a survivor, someone who certainly knew what Sinat Chinam looked like, passed away. And I have to be honest, it doesn't really feel weird saying that. Because one, it's not like I'd never envisioned having to say the words in the years he was sick, but also because I feel like it's just this existential thing that people say. Oh, my so-and-so passed away. But what does feel weird more specifically, or where I feel the emptiness, is in the after. After I finish saying it and finish whatever encounter or meaningful life event or conversation I've just had, which accompanies that line. Because I feel like that very person I should be calling up is my Zadie, who I had the privilege of having the most profound connection with, and telling him, hey Zadie, I just told another person that you passed. Isn't that so weird? So I tried to put that feeling into words. Now that we've finished grieving you, I'm calling to tell you how it went. The mountain of food delivered to our door, all the nostalgia, brokenheartedness, and laughter that was spent. Now that we've finished grieving you, let's resume our weekly Shabbos Zooms. The Seinfeld-like comedy scenes unfolding, your knowing looks, your presence filling my room. Now that we've finished grieving you, I'll book my flight to Delray to tell you all about this week's sorrow. Over our special nights on your balcony with our usual iced glasses of Moscato. Now that we finish grieving you, I'll send you this poem as it unfolds. You can tell me how much you enjoy my writing so I can finally feel consoled. Now that Shiva is over, I must come to terms with grieving you. A hole in my heart that will remain ever present. I'm only too proud to continue your legacy, Zadie. Your memory and life's achievements will forever be luminescent.
Chapter 3 on page 42. You might have noticed already there are 22 verses per chapter, connected to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. The letters are next to the verses, and chapter 3 has, for every letter, there's a triptych, 66 verses in all. אני הגבר העני בשבט עברתו, עושי נהג ויולך חושך ולא אור, אך בי ישוב יהפוך ידו כל היום. בילע בשרי ואורי, שיבר עצמוסי, בנה עלי ויעקב ראש ותלאה, במחשכים מושיבני כמסי עולם. גדר בעדי ולא אצא כביד ניחשתי, גם כי יזק וישבע ששם תפילתי. גדר דרכי וגזיס נסיבוסי איבל, דוב עורב חולי ארי במסתרים, דרכי סורר ויפשכני שמני שומם, דרך קשתו ויציבני כמעט רע לחץ. הביא בכליוסי בני אשפסו, הייסי שחוק לכל עמי, נגינתם כל היום. השיבני במרומים, הסביעני במרומים, הרבני לענה. ויגרוס בחצת שיני, הכפישני באפר. וישנח משלום נפשין, נשי שיא טובה. ואמר עובד נצחי, ושוחלתי מאדוני. זכרני ומרורי לנע בראש, זכור תזכור ותשיח עלי נפשי. זוס אשיב אל ליבי, על כן אוכיל. חסדי אדוני, כי לא שמנו, כי לא חלו רחמיו. חדשים לה וקרים לה באמונתך, חלקי אדוני אמרת נפשי, על כן אוכילו. טוב אדוני לקובב, לנפש תדרשנו, טוב יכיל ודומם, לתשועס אדוני, טוב לגבר כי יישא עול, מנוריו. ישב הדד וידום כי נטל עליו, ייתן ואף אולי יש תקווה, ייתן למכה ולחי, ישבע וחרפה. Page 44. כי לא יזנח לעולם אדוני, כי מחוגיו יריחם קרוב חסדיו, כי לא ינע מליבו ויגע בני איש, לדכא תחת רגליו כל הצירי הארץ, יחטוף משפט גבר נגד פני עליון, ויבס אדם בריבו, אדוני לא ראה. מי זמר ותקי, אדוני לא ציווה, מפי עליון לא תצא הרעוס והטוב. מה ישאונן אדם חי, גבר על חטא. נח וסדרכינו ונחקורה, ונשובה אנ אדוני. נישא לבבינו אל כפיים, אל אל בשמיים. אנחנו פשענו מרינו, אתה לא סלחת. סקוסה ואהבה תרדפנו, הרגת לא חמלת. סקוסה בענן לך, מעבור תפילה. שחי ומעוז תשימנו בקרב עמים, פצו עלינו בהם כל אויבינו. פחד ופחס היה לנו, השס והשבר שבר. פגעים ותרני על שבר בתמי, איני נגרע ולא תדמה מעין הפוגות. עד ישקיע ויראה אדוני משמיים, איני עוללה לנפשי מכל בנוסעירי. Verse 52 on page 45. סודת צדוני כציפור אויבי חינם, צמתו בבור חיי, וידו אבן בי. צפו מים על ראשי, אמרתי נגזרתי, קראתי שם אדוני מבור תחתיוס, קולי שמעת, אל תעלה מאזנך, לרווחתי לשבתי. קרבת ביום אקראך, אמרת אל תירא, רבת אדוני ריבי נפשי, גאלת חיי. ראיס אדוני אבססי, שבת משפטי. ראיס כל נקמסם, מחשבותם לי. שמעת חברתם אדוני, כל מחשבותם עלי. שפתי קמו בהגיונם, עלי כל היום. שיבתם בקימתם הבית, אני מנגינתם. תשיב להם גמול, אדוני כמעשה ידיהם. תיתן להם מגינס לב, תעלסך להם. תרדוף באף תשמידם, מתחת שמי אדוני.
The stalker. I see grief down the block, so I turn the corner. I have dinner with a friend. Grief is at another table and waves to me, but agrees to keep its distance. I go for a swim in the neighborhood pool, grateful that grief is not sharing a lane with me, hoping that if I swim till I'm exhausted, grief will leave me alone. After a day filled with sweet activities, I return home. Grief waits at my bedside. I take a pill and pull the covers over my head. In the morning, barely awake, eyes still shut, I hear a whisper in my ear. I'm still waiting. I turn the other way and get out of bed, starting on my daily routine that occasionally includes great joy, but which is primarily designed to avoid my stalker.
Chapter 4. Eicha yuam zahav, yishke kesem atov, tishtabech navne kodesh, birosh kol chutzot. The precious children of Zion, once valued as gold, alas, they are counted as earthen pots, work of a fighter's hands. גם התנין חלצו שן, העניקו גוריהן, ותמיד לאכזר, חי אני במדבר. דבן לשון יונק, אל חיכו בצמא, וללים שאלו לחם, פורס ואין להם. האוכלים למעדנים, נשמו בחוצות, האמונים עלי תולה, חיבקו אשפתו. ויגדל עוון בת עמי, מחטאת סדום, ההפוכה כמו רגע, ולא חלו בידיים. זעקו נזירי משלג, צחו מחלב, אדמו עצם מפנינים, ספיר גזרתם, חשך משחור תערם, לא נקרו בחוצות. צפר אורם על עצמם, יבש היה העץ. טובים היו חללי חרב, מחללי רעב, שהם יזובו מדוכרים, מתנובות שדי. ידי נשים רחמניות, בישלו ילדיהן, היו לברוס לעמו, ושבר בתמיד. כי לאדוני את חמתו, שפך חרון אפו, ויצאת אש בציון, ותאכל יסודותיה. לא האמינו מלכי ארץ, וכל יושבי תבל, כי יבוא צר ואויב בשערי ירושלים. וחטאות נביאיך, עוונות כהניך, השופכים בקרבה דם צדיקים. נעו או עיוורים בחוצות, נגואלו בדם, ולא יוכלו יגעו בלבושיהם. סורו טמא קראו למו, סורו סורו אל תיגעו. Stay away, unclean. People shouted at them, away, away, touch them not. כי נצו גם נעו, אמרו הגויים לא יוסיפו לנו. פני אדוני חלקם, לא יוסיף להביטם. בני כהנים לא נשאו, זקנים לא חננו. עודנו תכלנו עינינו, אל עזרתנו הובל. בציפייתנו ציפינו אל גוי לא יושיע. צעדו צעדינו מלכס ברחובותינו, קרב קיצנו מילאו ימינו כבה קיצנו. קלים היו רודפינו מנשרי שמיים, על ההרים דלקונו, במדבר ערבו לנו. רוח אפינו משיח אדוני, נלכד בשחיתותם. אשר אמרנו בצילו נחיה בגויים. סיסי ושימחי בס אדום, יושבס בארץ עוץ, גם עלייך תעבר בגוס, תשכרי ותתארי. אם עוונך תם עוונך בציון, לא יוסיף להגלותך. הכד עוונך בת אדום, גילה על חטאותייך. Okay. So we're coming to the last chapter, and know that like most things in shul, it takes a lot to feel these words. It takes a lot to, amidst the sing-song of the last 2,000 years, to hear these words. And just the plaintive cry of this trope and the way that the music falls is just a lament. And we could and should write and have written our own laments. I was in Israel for a month, and I was with a group of Christian leaders and rabbis, and we went to different parts of Israel, and we went to the occupied territories, and we sat down with people who live there who are Jews and people who live there who are Palestinians. And what was the most painful part of the trip maybe was the fact that the narratives are so polarized at this moment. Each person, each group, they're becoming more militant and more closed off from each other. And we went to visit a professor, Dr. Shikaki, who is a statistician, and he's doing a ton of surveys. He said the surveys are showing that more and more Palestinians are becoming more radicalized, and more Israelis are becoming more radicalized. And when asked about militancy, more and more are being willing to fight and die for the truth of their narrative. And it was a very depressing part of the trip. We were in Ramallah. And then he told us something remarkable. He said, there was one question that we asked that showed a remarkable change in attitude in a way that was disproportionate with any of the other questions that we asked. And the question was, we asked Palestinians if they would change their mind if Israel would publicly declare an apology for the pain that's been caused. And then they asked Israelis if they would do the same if Palestinians would acknowledge the right to exist and apologize for the pain they had caused. Like a simple question, right? And they saw this huge spike on both sides. Both sides, you know. And we were blown away because it seems too simple to believe. Even now, even as I'm saying, I'm thinking to myself, really? Is that all it takes? Is Amichai's poem really right? And the saddest moment for us was when we went to a refugee camp, Beit Jala. And in the refugee camp, we saw Palestinian children running around. It was a day off for them from school. And they were running around with guns, play guns, but they looked really real, with silencers. And they were playing like kids, but it wasn't a game. And they were pointing the guns at us, and they were saying, Yehud, Jew. And I thought to myself, Ribbon Shalom, you know, children are not born to hate. Children are not born to hate. They learn it. When are we going to teach one another to sit down and listen and not use force to push through things, to listen to one another? We're eating ourselves alive. And I say last thing, you know, I feel so much pride in, I know that the focus is on Israel and on the Jewish people now because it's Eicha, but you know that all of the tradition says that Eicha is the same letters as the word Ayeka, which means where are you? And the fundamental question that God asked Adam Arishon, Adam, was a question for all of humanity. It's not unique to the Jewish people. Where are we? In our grief, where are we in our softness and our capacity to hold our own and others' pain? And I have such enduring belief and faith in the Jewish people. And even though this is one of the most difficult and darkest moments of, I think, of my lifetime, I really believe that, you know, like that letter Tet, the first letter, it kind of turns in on itself. It's like this. And the Svarim say, it says in the books that you have to look for the light inside the letter. It's pointing, it's giving you a clue. It says, go look. It's the hidden light is in there. And so I think that we're going to emerge from this. We're going to emerge from this period and we'll be stronger in some way. I believe that. Chapter 5, page 48. Zichor Adonai mehayalanu habiturei es cherpateinu. If you know the words and you know the trope, sing with me. Sing together. Nachlatenu nefcha lezarim, batenu lenochriim. Yitomim hayinu ein av, imotenu ke'almano. Meimenu b'chesef shatinu, aitzenu b'mechir yavo. Al tzavarenu nihirdafnu, Yaganu Elohunach lanu. מצרים נתנו יד, אשור לספוע לכם. אבותינו חטאו ואינם, ואנחנו אבנותיהם סבלנו. עבדים משלו בנו, חורק אין בידם. בנפשנו נביא לחמנו, מפני חרב המדבר. עודנו כתנור נחמרו, מפני זלעפות רעב. נשים בציון עינו, בתולות בערי יהודה. שרים בידם נתלו, פני זקנים לא נהדרו. בחורים תיכון נשאו, ונעים עץ בשלו. זקנים נשאר שבתו, בחורים מנגינתם. שבת בסוד ליבנו, נפח לב אל מחולנו. נפלה עטרת ראשנו, אוי נא לנו כי חטאנו. על זה הידע וליבנו, על אלה חשכו עינינו. על הר ציון ששמם, שועלים הלכו. אתה אדוני לעולם תשב, הישך לדור ודור. למה לנצח תשכחנו, תעזבנו לאורך ימים. You go. השיב. כי מעוז מאסתנו, קצבת עלינו עד מאוד. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם. השיבנו, השיבנו, אדוני אליך, השיבנו, השיבנו, אדוני אליך, ונשובה, ונשובה, חנש, חנש, ימינו כקדם. חנש, חנש, ימינו כקדם. We have some songs here in the sheet if you can see them. Amin, 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 amin. Ve'emuna sheleima, ve'viat HaMashiach. Reviat HaMashiach, ani mamin. Reviat HaMashiach, Reviat HaMashiach, ani mamin. Ani mamin, ani mamin. Ani mamin, me'emuna sheleima, bevias HaMashiach, bevias HaMashiach, ani mamin. Me'af al pi she'yismameach, עם כל זה אני מאמין. What's the other one? I can't remember the one now. אף על פי שיתממע עם כל זה, אחכה לו, בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, מביאס המשיח, אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, מביאס המשיח, אני מאמין, ואמרתי שישמעיה עם גוזר, אחכה לו, בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא. ני 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 should lower the key. Da 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 dum. Didi da 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 dum da dum. Didi dum bum 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 bum. Didi na 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 dum. Didi na 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 dum. Didi na 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 dum. Didi na 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 na. Hey, na 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 na. Didi na na na. Didi na na. I love that song. There's also, no, Eli Tzion on the bottom of the first sign. Ve'arecha kemo isha vetzinecha ve'chivesu la chagurat al ba'al ne'urecha alei agmon asher natash ve'ashmatzon adarecha ve'al biyat mecharfe'el בתוך מקדש חדש עלי גלות משרתיהם נעימי שיר זמריך ועל דמם אשר שופך כמו מימי יאורך עלי גיון מחולך אשר דמם בארץ ועל ועד אשר שמם וביטול סנהדך על זה יבחי תמידך ופדיוני בכור ומזבח כתודעה עלי תפי מלאכיה לעיני דוד יבירך ועל יף ים אשר חשך ועד שרו כתרך עלי כבוד אשר גלה בעת חורבן דוד ועל לוחץ אשר לחץ ושם עסקים חגורך עלי מחץ ורוב מכות אשר הוכו נזירך ועל ניפוץ אלי סלע אביא לך נעריך עלי שמחת משנאיך ושחקתם על שבריך ועל עינוי בני חורים נדיבי הטהוריך עלי פשע אשר עבתה סלול דרך אשוריך ועל צבאות כגליך שזופי השחוריך עלי קולות מחרפך רבו וגר ויד ישת מגדפך בתוך משכן חצריך עלי שמך אשר חולל בפי קמי מצריך ועל דכן יצבחו לך כשוב ושמע אמריך עלי ציון ועריך כמו אישה בצירך וחיבתו לך גורצך על בעל נעוריך. So I just wanted to say that it's late, and Victor's been here all day, and we thank Victor and the team and Ethan and Rabbi Koleresis for a beautiful Torah, and for all the people in the synagogue that we can't see. You know, it's not lost on us. I think those of us who've been following the news for the last 6 months, how ironic it is to be in the week of Tisha B'Av and to have things happening in quite the way that they're happening and unfolding in the Holy Land. And there are plenty of things happening here also, painful things. And the body keeps a score, you know. I wish we could see what grief does to the body when it's not expressed and not held. Wish we could see the shapes that it forms, the contours of grief, unexpressed grief. I went today in my role at the 92nd Street Y. I was invited to dedicate a pool up at their camp. It wasn't exactly the kind of thing you do on Erev Tisha B'Av. It was strange. Okay. So I went up there, and the children, the giggles from the children and the playing, and it was a blessing. I thought about the pandemic and how much grief there still is from the pandemic. Your children getting back to a place of safety and security to play, that it's going to be okay. I think that's what happens when we grieve, is that we allow ourselves to metabolize and experience in the way that experience is asking us to feel it all the way through. And when we don't, it inhibits our ability to meet the moment with an open heart. So I know that tomorrow at the consulate at 5 o'clock, Romemu will be joining with many other organizations to pray and to protest, to have our voices be heard. Because in many ways, what we're saying is that people are not hearing our voices, and there are voices that are not at the table. And I just want to say that I think Tisha B'Av is a day for us to be gentle with ourselves and with others. And I know that there's a lot of anger also in these protests. And it's legitimate too. I mean, Jeremiah is angry in these texts, right? He doesn't hold back from being angry. And even though we're talking about grief, there are parts of grief that express anger and pain in that way. But it's a good day to be gentle with ourselves and to let things surface. And I know that many of us don't have the time tomorrow to go hang out somewhere on a blanket and cry. In your office, not usually the easiest place to shut a door. We have rooms now for, there are rooms where people can go to breastfeed, but we don't have rooms where people can go to grieve. It's like they should have a grief room. Like a grief room, you go to cry. It's like, yeah, I need this. I'm using this room for crying the next hour. What is it? Oh, a dish breaking room? That sounds like my kitchen. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing that one day a year we get to hold it, and there are people in our community who are holding grief from proximate pain. We just heard Gabi talking tonight about her grandfather's 80, and Mark is here, lost his father this year. Beloved friends who lost husbands and leaders. A woman wrote to me 2 days ago and said, Tisha B'Av is the yahrzeit of my 3-year-old grandson. And so she said, how do I How do I hold that? Yeah, you know, how can you hold that? So we hold each other because we can't hold it all. And so we hold each other. Millie knows that so well. And so just anyway, I think this Tisha B'Av is a special Tisha B'Av in the way it directly relates to a profound question on how we maintain sovereignty in the state of Israel and sovereignty in our lives. What are the conditions in which we turn the 9th of Av into a holiday at one point? How would we go about doing that? And I think that one of the most beautiful things about our tradition is that just like Egypt happens every year, Tisha B'Av is happening every year because we still haven't learned its lessons. We're still having a hard time listening deeply to the lessons of Tisha B'Av. I say I haven't. It's hard. It's hard to be what the tradition wants us to be. It is hard. So hopefully, if you have a moment over the next 24 hours of truth, then you're already ahead of the game. Because a lot of us will just be thinking about fasting and thinking about how hungry we are and reading. But if you have a moment of honest grief and truth and you feel held by the Shekhinah, like God's presence, she says to you, take 30 seconds to give me your tears. I'm waiting. And you say, I'll give you my tears. And then we ask her to give her tears back to us. It's Shekhinah. You know, we'll cry if you cry too. And then the Shekhinah says, you know, your tears are my tears. Your pain is my pain. Your loss is my loss. Your confusion is my confusion. But if we don't root ourselves in love, friends, it's not going anywhere. This world is certainly not getting any closer to redemption, you know, in the way of force and in the way of fear and yelling and screaming. And our lives also probably won't go forward in that way either, probably. We could all try it. Try it for a little while, see what it'll be like. Just yell and scream and see if you get the life you want. It's like, it doesn't usually happen. So I just tell one last story and then I guess we'll just close it out. And oh, Neely, you wanted to say something? I heard your name. Sure, why not? Do you want? Can you? No, it's okay. You can tell. You can sing a song.
And I'm not really a singer. I just want to offer it. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find my way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know. this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains crumbling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains crumbling, this I know. There are more mountains crumbling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains crumbling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains crumbling, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through the waters when they find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will move with the fires, this I know, this I know. I will move with the fires, this I know. I will move with the fires when they find their way to me. I will move with the fires, this I know. This I know, I will move with the fires, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to me. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. This I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know.
This I know. It is customary to refrain, but I would say that, to be mindful of the way that we greet each other on Tisha B'Av. It's a great time for us to think about our social graces and imagine that sometimes we're being truthful and sometimes we're not. And we don't always have to be what others expect of us, especially when we're grieving. At the same time, I think it's silly on a day that's dedicated to loving freely to not greet one another with love. So find the balance, between, hey, how you doing? And like, it's Tisha B'Av kind of feeling, if that makes sense. And I just think the last image is the image of Rachel. I think it's one of the most beautiful images that in our tradition is Rachel Mivakal Banea. And I remember growing up with a song that some of you might know, and if you do, just sing with me, and we'll think about all the Rachels of the world crying for their children who are coming home. Kol berama nishma, kol berama nishma, Nehi v'chitam lurim. It's too high, I think. Keys are, I haven't sung in a month and a half. So my keys. Kol berama nishma. Kol berama nishma. Nehi v'chitam lurim. Rachel mevaka al baneh. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel mevaka al baneh. Me'ana lahi Rachel al banecha ki eneh. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel mevaka al banecha, me'ana lahi Rachel al banecha ki einenu. Is there another version that you guys know? Because I feel like others know a different version, maybe. Nevaka Neha Minachem Albane Hi Enu Chi Ve'enayich min dim'a Zah lefulatech Veshavu Veshavu banim legvulam, right?
Eretz Oyev.
Eretz Oyev.
יש שכר לפעולתך, נאום השם כנעננה. כי יש שכר לפעולתך, ושבו מארץ אויב.
I love that one. Is that one that
It
your
ends
father speak?
positively.
Did your father what?
It ends positively.
I know, it's like an uplift. There's another one, and then we'll go, but we can, but there was another one, just 1 second on that. There's another Rachel then. Rachel, Rachel, mivaka, mivaka, al banecha. I think we sang that. Is that what we sang? Okay. Yeah, yeah. Hey, Yosera. Yeah. Which is the Veshavu. But not Veshavu Vani, not that one. Let's do upbeat. So we'll go. I'm sorry, but we'll have to do it for next year, God willing. Al Naharos. So no, it's by the water. You want to do by the waters of that one, or did you want to do the Hebrew one? I say Al Naharot Pavel. Sham yashavnu gam bachinu v'zachenu et Zion. That one. Sham bachshavnu gam bachinu v'zachenu et Zion. Al Naharot Bavel. Al Naharot. Sham yashavnu gam bachinu v'zachenu et Zion. Sham yashavnu v'gam bachinu v'zachenu et Zion. What's the B part? It's a key change. Shir, Eich nashir et shir Hashem. Hashem. Ishkachim vini. Im lo eskerechi, im lo alet Yerushalayim, al rosh simchasi. Okay. Yeah, it does work. Right? So we could go on and on, but some of us have to go home. And so I think that tomorrow at 5 o'clock, but I also think that there's morning minyan tomorrow. It's also, and I'm teaching at 1, I think. No, it said in the email that went out that I'm teaching at noon. The other people, it's at 12, yeah. Oh, that's right. I'll be teaching tomorrow at 12 o'clock. All right, Chevra. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. I don't know the chords yet to that, but one day I'll sing it. Olam Chesed Yibaneh minor. To what? Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We will build this world from love. You must build this world.